Hello, 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 hello. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Thank you for your patience. So let's get into this. Let me pull this up. Okay, I'm gonna go off video for a little bit. Present. Okay, so very, very nice chart. A lot in common with mine, actually. Um, so basically, me and you have the same ascendant, same moon. We're both Pisces, eighth house sun. Um, both on the same nodal axis, but different directions. So just say I understand your chart. I looked at it right away. I was like, I just want to do one more tonight. And yours was the one that resonated the most. So let's do it. Um, so first of all, having a Pisces sun, obviously I'm not going to go into the sun, what it means to be a Pisces, because we know I mean, I'll say some things, but um obviously, when you're Pisces, you're the 12th sign, so you're a mix of every other sign. Um, so a lot of times Pisces take more from their moon. We're both Pisces suns, Sag moons, and Leo risings. That's so cool. We're the same big three. So amazing. So obviously I know it well. So um, being a Pisces, right? A Pisces Sag, you have your sun squaring moon by element, or by sign. And essentially it's this battle between the fiery part of you and the Pisces part, right? So there'll be the Pisces part that is more, obviously it's a more feminine energy, super intuitive, super compassionate, artistic, abstract, all these things, right? And because it's a softer energy, it is, um, there's a big potential for it to get overblown by the more dominant fire energy. So as a Sag moon and Leo rising, and you're a Leo North Node too, so you're really, really meant, in this lifetime, you're meant to shine. You're meant to. When I see a south node in Aquarius, which is so interesting that we have the same south. Our nodes are in the same houses, but opposite. So like my north node is in Aquarius in the seventh. Yours is in your south node is Aquarius in the seventh. Your north node is in Leo in the first. My south node is in Leo in the first. So it's different karma. But basically, you know, as a Pisces, obviously eighth house, eighth house suns are people who are here to transform, right? I say this every time I have someone who's eighth house sun. I say that everyone goes through changes in their lives, right? Everyone goes through, it's not like a groundbreaking thing to be like you transform in your life or you go through big evolutionary, stages. But when you're an eighth house sun, those stages are extreme, right? It's like it's to the extent that I always say it's almost like at different phases in your life, it's almost as if as an actress playing you, because the changes were so extreme. So um basically, and in fact you have Venus and Mars and Pisces also is interesting. But as the eighth house Pisces, things like astrology, things like psychology, the occult, anything that helps you understand the depth of existence, studies of life after death, all these types of things that increase your spiritual awareness, those empower you more than anything. You also have one of the best places for psychic abilities or highly intuitive abilities, which is Neptune conjunct Moon. It's nearly, 1 degree away, less than a degree away. See 23 and 23.51, 24.5 or 39. So, and then you have Uranus on your IC. Interesting. But basically, so this is actually changes things up quite a bit because Neptune is the planet that rules Pisces. So this sort of Leo and Sagg, which are both fire, versus Pisces. Well, the Sagg is actually, because of the Neptune conjunction, it's kind of like a Sagg / Pisces moon. That's kind of how it plays out. So it actually is a lot more balanced for you, and because you have all those other planets in Pisces, it's not like how it is for me, where it's way more in favor of the fire. So there's obviously a massive spiritual yearning, and 1000% you are not the type of person who is like, you're a very deep person. There's no chance that you're like a superficial person, right? Eighth house wants to go deeper, deeper, deeper. So what can be a little bit confusing is being a Leo rising, right? Because the rising is what people see. Being a Leo rising, people see this, gregarious, fun-loving. You know how Leos are. Like, it's very open, very fiery, passionate. Some Leo risings like attention. Some have this weird paradox where it's like they want attention, they do things for attention, but then they want to be more secretive. But there can be sort of a flash that Leo risings have, right? It makes the chart ruled by your sun, so it makes the house of your sun, the eighth house, extremely important. So you're a natural psychologist, a seeker. However, like back to what I was saying, when people see you and meet you, they might not, until they get to know you, understand the depth, right? They might not understand this very, very, very compassionate, very, very, very empathetic, abstract, artistic, words continue, like just out of this planet type of person, right? That person that believes that anything is possible, that's mysterious, has an intrigue to them, a certain mystique, a love for freedom. Now, that's why the idea, why it becomes so important to live authentically, right? To really, and I can I don't like to speak about myself in readings, but we have so much in common. So what I can say is that it can be easy to allow others' projections of you, or not easy, but like it's important to not allow other people's projections of you, or of who you are and who they think, what they think you represent, to get to you. Because as a Pisces, you're a chameleon, right? Pisces are chameleons. Pisces can shapeshift. Pisces can adapt to any environment they're in, and just boom, they can transform. But sometimes, it's a double-edged sword. Are you leaving now? Yeah. Be careful with it. Use the four. Okay, so yeah, so that's really, really important, right? Is to not allow the you know, like, yeah, you're Leo externally. Um, and another thing about like so what can happen though is that, like, we tend when we're younger to be a lot more like our, in my experience, I think that our rising comes out a lot. Um, I know people have different views of this, but well, I think it's different from, the rising, the moon is our instincts, right? So we're always acting in our moon sign, because that's our, instinctual self. That's us at our most, you know, just authentic, right? So as a Sag moon with Neptune conjuncted, do not forget that's so important. There's a level of Sag moon is all about wisdom. It's all about exploration. It's all about freedom. So I always say this about myself, that the Pisces side of me, wants to just sit around and be at home and meditate, and maybe there's some difficulty with connecting to like the external world. Not, I mean, like the mainstream world and everything like that. But then the sad part is like life of the party, and very much about new experiences. So when I talk about this like Pisces Sag, right, there's this aspect where you have to learn to feed both mouths, because they're very different energies. But there is one common ground. You're lucky you're in this reading for me, because I've learned this through so much experience, right? I've pondered my own chart, the energies of my own chart so much. Is that they're both ruled by Jupiter in some way, even though modern astrology, Sun or Pisces is ruled by Neptune. In traditional astrology, it's ruled by Jupiter, so Sag, and so Jupiter is about knowledge, wisdom, knowledge, truth. So as a Sag moon, you have an emotional need to find truth, and because it's conjunct Neptune, it's spiritual truth, right? It's you're really trying, and it makes you this extreme empath. You are an extreme empath. So the idea of alone time is extremely important for you, because like I said, as a chameleon, you can take on energy that's not yours. And there can be that potential for, let's say, being around certain people and not noticing the effect that they have on you, and the effect that their beliefs have on you. And that's especially true with your mother. Because with a Neptune moon conjunction, now the conjunction obviously is a lot easier than the square, the opposition. But there's a tendency for that, with that placement, to take on a lot from the mother. There's a very deep karmic cord between you and her. And because it's a conjunction, I'm not, I'm not indicating that being good or bad. I'm just saying that whenever I talk to people who have these alignments, I ask them, are there any negative emotions? And I don't see, I don't see hard aspects to your moon, right? Um, but I ask, are there any like negative emotions that you may have taken on that don't belong to you, right? And unconsciously, like any shame or any guilt or anything like that, right? Because that's very common with that. But for Pisces people, there can, the difficulty can be self-confidence, or the reason Pisces need to be, it's so important for you to like invest in your spiritual, really invest in your spiritual development, is because there can be there can be, identity crises, right? where it can be easy to like lose sight of who you are, especially in the material world. That's why it's so important for Pisces to be to really develop that spiritual relationship with themselves. Um, and you know, it's also so important to enjoy your alone time and to understand and to not be shamed, because like as a Sag moon, Sag moon is all about freedom, but it's also very social, and it wants to experience different cultures and different worldviews. It can get bored. It can get bored and like want new experiences. But then the Pisces part of that is so sensitive to energies, right? So it's really important to have a lot of great judgment around that. Because there's that osmosis process. You are a gifted healer by nature, but with that Neptune on your moon and being a Pisces, Mars, Pisces, Venus, Pisces Sun, there is that potential that you can take on stuff that's not yours. And let's say you're like with someone who has a lot of trauma, you're like working as a healer of some sort. There could be the potential of yeah, I guess of taking on their trauma, take and yeah, basically just taking something that's not yours. So energetic protection is really really important. And I always tell people who are very very Neptunian a few things. One of them is that Neptune rules like the highest spirituality, but also rule. It's also like it can be very foggy, very 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 murky, like very confusing. It can be very hard for the Neptunian to see themselves in a way that's in an objective way. So one of the counters is um one of the counters is what am I trying to say? One of the counters is the fact, one, like being able to like understand what your baseline is. Like when you're alone, I always like say like a numerical scale, like let's say like your level your level when you're alone is, let's call it from a scale of -10 to 10. Let's say 0 is your alone state, right? When you're alone. Not that's bad. Let's just say that's your level, right? Your normal level when you're like in your own energy. You spend time with someone, or an environment, let's say whatever happens, you go on a trip with friends, you come back and you're drained, right? Or you go on a date with someone and you want to get really, really good at understanding like what your default spiritual energy is. What just happened? Hold on. Yeah. So like let's say you spend time with someone and you feel kind of drained, you go back home, you meditate, and you realize like, wow, like I was at -3, right? And you can feel that through like, getting in touch with your body, getting in just like really, really like understanding like subtle energy and how it works. You have a natural gift for that too. So um it's not about being a loner, because as a Sag moon, you're not meant to be that. As a Leo North node, you're not meant to be that. But it's really important to have space and to have freedom in your life. Like in relationships, there's no chance that you'd be someone who, well, actually it's interesting, because the Pisces energy is super romantic and soul mate, soul like twin flamey ish. I don't know. It's just the word that came to my head. But um, Sag moons definitely Sag moons definitely like need to experience life as like this constant adventure, like constantly learning, constantly, so traveling is massive, right? And another reason why I think traveling is so huge for your chart, and I'll get back to what I was saying before, is because you're an eighth house sun. I always say eighth house suns, they go through such massive transformations, right? Like I was saying before, that sometimes it can be very difficult for them to, because also Pisces is it's very difficult for Pisces to have boundaries, to have good boundaries, right? And so like let's say you grew up around certain people at one stage in time, you were very compatible with them, but then you grew a lot and they didn't. What can happen is that these people, I've seen it so much, that's why I always talk about it, is that certain people can try to bring you down back to your older version of yourself, right? So a lot of ATOS sons I know, myself and others, have moved or have lived in different places, especially Sag's moon. And when you're Sag's moon and you take risks, like the Jupiterian is rewarded for the risks that he or she takes, right? So um, I most definitely think that, going back to what I was saying before, that I mean, like the alone time is huge, but also Neptune rules cameras, right? So one thing, and I swear I've had so much success with this, like with my clients. And it's the idea of, doing like a video vlog, right? Where you film yourself and you talk about whatever, you don't have to show anyone. Um, and you film yourself talking about your emotions, like almost like a daily vlog or something, or like whenever you want to do it. It doesn't have to be daily, right? And through that, some of that potential fog around, especially because Neptune's on the moon, you start to understand what emotions are yours and what aren't, and you start to understand yourself better, right? Through being able to like see yourself through either a mirror or a screen, right? And for some Pisces, I've noticed it can be really like it can be tricky. Um, like a lot of them feel self-conscious when it comes to looking at themselves on camera and stuff. But it's just one of those things that you just have to try, and it gets so much easier. And the Leo rising, Leo rising love, it's made for that. They're the show, the showstopper. So, and it's also making you a very creative and very passionate person. So, the way to like, I guess, balance these in the best way is to understand that um that your surrounding, where you live, who you surround yourself with, where you work, what you do for work, um, if they're good, it's going to be really, really good. It's going to affect you in the most amazing way. But if it's bad, it's going to have a way bigger effect on you. And wow, I just looked and I saw that you have 0 Earth like me, but you have like 0, 0. You don't have any Earth, like no, I mean, yeah, nothing. So that's interesting. And I can tell you a little bit something about that. When you lack Earth in your chart, you don't have this natural groundedness, this natural ability to feel like the same person. What? Close the thing up. So yeah, when you lack Earth, you don't have this natural ability. Like, people with a lot of Earth, Capricorn, Virgo, Taurus, it's like it's like they can kind of rely on themselves to be at somewhat of a similar level, like in terms of like they wake up and they feel like a very similar version of themselves. But when you're, like me and you, it's not like that. It's a battle, right? So it's like things like routine are so important. Having a healthy routine, right? So a routine that hits you physically, right? Like sports or yoga or meditation, walking, whatever, right? Emotionally, like the thing like therapy, or where you're able to talk to yourself, or doing something creative. Pisces, so creative, right? So especially with your moon conjunct Neptune, like a creative outlet could be one of the best things possible, especially since your moon is in the 5th house, right? So you have an emotional need. You're like me, you have an emotional need to be creative. And then in that, you're creating this real deep spiritual relationship with yourself, and then also, the spiritual. Are you living now? Let me pause it. All right, sorry, my girlfriend is leaving for the weekend, so just saying bye to her. Anywho, kind of lost track where I was, but yeah. So, basically, you are in these two worlds and needing to balance out because okay, I'll give you an example. If you're too much in the Pisces camp, right? Your emotional needs of Sagittarius, which requires experience. Like, yeah, you can travel physically or metaphorically. So the traveling metaphorically could be learning about something, you know, um, speaking to someone from a different culture, learning about a different subject, anything that increases it's all about truth. So Sag moons have this need for truth, for ultimate truth. So they can travel far away and do all kinds of things, right? To find them. But what can happen, so that's if you're too much in the Pisces, you might just be sitting around at home too much. And that's no good. I mean, it's good, but like at some point you're gonna be like, I need a fucking adventure. Like Sag moons need to change things up. And Pisces, you're double mutable, right? So Pisces is also about like it's very dreamy, and it's also about like exploring what's possible, and like it's also very much about um, kind of wanting to go with the flow in life, right? So when you have so much mutable energy, you are someone who is very good at going with the flow. I remember I was talking about the lack of earth, right? So with respect to so I'll get back to that. I'll finish what I'm saying here and then I'll get back to the lack of earth. But yeah, so if you're too much on the Sag though, the the Pisces sensitivity and the Neptune on the moon sensitivity can get overwhelmed. Too much in the Sag/Leo, let's call it that, right? Sag/Leo. So that can be, you can get overwhelmed. And what's interesting is that, okay, so you have, yeah, you have your Mercury in Aquarius, so and it's retrograde. Interesting. So, but you're a mega creative person. Mega creative, and you know, like yeah. So too much in the Pisces, uh, it just it like too much in the Pisces also can be too much in the imaginary world, too much like seclusion and kind of like want because like Pisces can be so happy in their imaginary in their living in their imaginary world, because a lot of times as kids, they built kingdoms in their imagination, they became very self-reliant, a lot of them, right? So a lot of people are very boring and in the sense of like they can't entertain themselves. Pisces can entertain themselves, right? Um, so that's kind of the balance, right? But like they meet at Jupiter, which is about wisdom. So spiritual wisdom and wisdom about the world, right? So or just truth in general. So that's the balance, there could be sometimes, like for my life, right? Like I've had periods like now, and this also goes with the transits, right? Because you would have just ended what I had, right? Or you're just ending Neptune squaring your moon, right? So that crazy period, right, for both of us. Although it ended more. I mean, it's maybe still maybe just ending for you recently, but that would have been like a really Neptunian time, most likely, a very, confusing time, but also potentially very spiritual. But there's other, I would have to do your whole current astrology, which is that's the reading that most people get after. They get this one, they get the follow up and the current. I can't remember if you have the follow up or not. Let me check. Just the reading. So if you want to add the follow up and the current, I would love to do that for a very discounted rate. You just have to let me know. I could do it for So it would be like a 3 hour session. It wouldn't be like a long wait like this one was. It would be in the next few weeks, like whenever I have like whenever after you've taken the reading in, taken notes, gotten everything down, the follow-up, I would charge, usually it's like follow-up is like 160 or 150, I forget. And the current I think is like 350 or something. Let me check. So yeah, it's 370. Oh no, 350, and I think it's like 500 combined around, right? But I'd be happy to do it um I'd be happy to do both for 380. So you just have to remind me I told you that price. Actually I'll just write it down. That's easier. I should start doing that. Offered. So yeah, you can let me know. And it ends up being like around a 3 hour session. The first hour, it's us going over just the natal, you comparing your lived experience with the chart and what I said. And then we move seamlessly into, the current astrology. We go into I do everything. A lot of astrologers will only do they'll have like a different reading for each one. Like I do progression, transits, solar arc, house ingress, the progressed moon, the progressed lunar cycle, and the solar return chart. Whatever's needed, and I call it current astrology / spiritual alignment because I have 2 masters in psychology, and just talking to me, I'm very philosophical, and I don't know. I'd be really happy if you did it. Not for the money or anything like that. I'm not like that at all. There's zero pressure. Just because it'd be so interesting to talk to you. Have I had a client that had my same big three? I can't think. Either 0 or 1. I don't think ever had a client with. Maybe I've had 1. I know I've met people who have it. No, I don't know if I've had a client who's had it. It's crazy. Actually, you know what? Just because you have the same big three as me, um, I would do it for 350. I just changed it. 350 plus whatever the fee is, which is probably like $10, $15, whatever the fee for. But if you have Cash App, it's 0 fee. Cash App is free. Or Wise Bank. Bank transfer is free. Anyways, and that's US dollars. So back to the reading. So yeah, as I was saying, right, like you need to have that correct balance. With the lack of earth, it's it's just like you have to try extra hard, for all these for that balance, or you can really fall, you can become very unbalanced easily. And it can just make life really, really hard. And you can, especially with the stakes are very high for you, with taking in other people's energy, all that. So doing things like being in nature, um, being around really good vibe people, things like chanting, breath work, you name, all these these spiritual things are very, very, very good. Meditation is life changing for someone like you, because with Neptune conjunct Moon, you are like you're an alien, and you're someone who can just like you just will get amazing spiritual insights, not just in meditation, but in your dreams too. So paying attention to your dreams, you can have prophetic dreams. Um, so yeah, just like, yeah, it's such a sensitive, kind of like caring person. But yeah, that real you really feel like the suffering of the world, and there can be a lot of difficulty can't coping with that. And some people with that will just go into fantasy, and sometimes that fantasy is escape, and sometimes like escape, and sometimes it's addiction. So you have to watch out for addiction too. And a lot of times also with this, there's like an unrealistic idea of the mother, right? So it's really important to be very, very real about that. A lot of times there's like a real deep attachment to the mother. So the key with that is to really develop your artistic and creative nature and have that as a healthy escape as opposed to like drugs, negative people, because that's how you'll realize your full potential. Because as being such an empath, like some of these energy vampire types might try to cling on. And um, you know, with Uranus on your IC, that typically a lot of times people with that had parents that divorced, not always. Or usually every person I've ever met that has that, nearly everyone like really wanted to leave home really early. Like they tend to maybe they like moved around a lot as a child. Maybe it was like from one parent's house to the next, or maybe they just had to move around. Or maybe but like because there's not really any well, I guess you have Venus square, but like it could have also just been like a very bohemian and kind of like different type of upbringing. So moving forward, it can also make it so like the unconscious can be, it just adds further importance to have that balance, because it can kind of make the unconscious, subconscious like very, very up and down. Um, and unstable, and it can kind of make someone also like in their grown-up life like want to always be moving, always changing places. And as a Sag moon, I would not be surprised at all if you're someone like that. But yeah, like I said before, you're someone who can like literally create through your intuition, and who probably has like unusual hobbies, unusual things you're interested in. Um, but having what you have, like when I see that, kind of fifth house like this, I always think someone who wants to have fun with what they do for a living, and you know being Taurus, Chiron in the 10th house, you could very well be a healer for your profession in some way, right? And yeah, so besides that, um so like I said, like as a Leo rising and Leo North Node, so just like me, I'm a 28-degree Leo rising, you're 26, and my North Node is 14. Your North Node is not, well, my South Node's 14. Your North Node's 9, right, Leo? So it's kind of like I like to think of it as like a 12th house, a 12th house North Node slash first house North Node. Like I like to give both because it can kind of go either way. But karmically, and then he squares Chiron. Interesting. Um, there could be some past life pain that you're hanging on to in this lifetime, and that you're here with your 8th house sun, because your 8th house sun, it pushes crisis into your life that forces you to evolve, right? Um, and with the South Node in Aquarius, there's a karmic tendency to be the person that's always helping, right? That healer. But maybe in past lives you were giving, 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 and not receiving, right? So it's good to have that balance in this life. With the North Node Leo, it's okay to be a little bit selfish, because you're here in this lifetime to really, really, really get down with this authentic, like you're trying to reclaim your inner child in this lifetime, right? Um, and in essence, right, you are also trying to develop your inner strength. Um, and with this, there can be times where it's lonely, but that's all part of this like big lesson, because you're trying to like get deep into yourself to find your own sense of like authentic self-expression, right? You because like there could have been a tendency to be, um, you know, like you can only fully give back to the world when you have enough reserve for yourself. So one of the big lessons as a Pisces is boundaries, energetic boundaries, as I said before, right? Allergies. So, it can be difficult for a Pisces to say no, and because they just want to help. They want to help. They want to help, and they see the best in everyone. They see people for who they can be at their highest potential, but that isn't necessarily who they are, right, at that current time. So it's very important for them to, have that, especially as a Venus in Pisces, right? In the seventh, it's very important for them to really have that honest, um, view of the people that they're dealing with in their lives. And if because like I say, because you are so sensitive, um, it's just so important for you to create firm boundaries, right? Hold on, I think I just messed something up. Sorry. All right. Um, I just sent you a chart to my iPad. I started doing that yesterday. It's kind of cool. Just have the image like that. Um, because sometimes when I do readings, I like to like turn the camera off and like walk around and stuff. Fun. I mean, I think I sometimes I have my best thoughts when I'm moving. I'm that kind of dude. Um, all right. So, anyways, yeah. So, as the Leo rising, right? Like I was saying, the fact that it correlates with your North Node, it means that you are supposed to step into your power. You are supposed to allow yourself to shine. You are supposed to allow yourself to be a little bit selfish in this lifetime. Now, one of the great things about Leo rising is that it's a fire sign, so it's very good at self-starting. It's a great leader. Um, it loves autonomy and everything it does, independence. It's very self-reliant. But like the thing about being fixed fire means that unlike other fire signs, Aries and Sag, it can start something and also follow through on it, right? Um, so it's good for, I think Leo risings like are pretty organized too a lot of times. And they're very, very like assured in their own purpose, and they really like live life to the fullest. Um, but and they have to watch out to not have like narcissistic tendencies, right? Um, and sometimes like they can get pushed back, like fall down, but they're usually back on their feet pretty quickly, right? And they have this real just that this sun, it's ruled by the sun. So your chart's ruled by the sun. So the fact that the North Node is in Leo, it's really like you're here to the heart of the lion to develop that. And in the North Node in the first house, it's like about identity. You're here to really you know like because a South Node in the seventh would indicate that in past lives you allowed Aquarius friends, seventh house relationships to define you too much, right? So if you're, for example, someone who is the friend or like the wife, or the mother or whatever, like basically you haven't you've been such a giver that you haven't been able to fully um like get into your authentic creative self. Does that make sense? So that's really important. And all matters of the eighth house are mega important. So eighth house is death, rebirth, transformation, the occult, esoteric. Um, you know, it really is the house of studies of life after death, sex, um, even legal matters, of course, anything metaphysical, esoteric, and yeah, so it really is something special, and in Pisces something very spiritual. So you're taking a step in this lifetime. It's all like the big thing is with an eighth house sun is surrender, and it's really that soul versus ego battle, right? And you're moving, and the Leo represents, in some ways the ego. Not saying I'm just for the sake of what I'm saying, right? So like it can appear that way in the rising, right? So with with the Pisces, it definitely is about um you know what's the word, not transcendental, just completely rising above everything, and really being with that, with your soul. Um, the deepening, and all the shadow work. So with love, having, oh, actually, I want to finish with the other. So yeah, South and the seventh house, right? Like I said, um, it would be in classes, it would be in the sixth house. So yeah, it's just like not allow like really not allowing relationships to define you so much. And the fact that so we'll talk about the relationship stuff next, right? But there can be a past life tendency of being too much in like the relationship camp. And it's not that you're not meant to do that in this life, but you need to have a certain level of independence. You have Venus square Uranus, which is like you're only like, well, yeah, one of two like major aspects, or actually no, but I mean besides like the moon and Neptune. But yeah, so the other version of like North Node in the 12th, that is basically kind of backing up, that's the house of Pisces and of Neptune, that you're here to really, really, um, you know, live a life of service, and live a life of sacrifice, and a life of, or, a life of really deepening yourself spiritually, you know, moving away from the material world to the spiritual world. Um, really living out your dreams, right? And Yeah, in a sixth house south node, right? Like the other way of looking at it, it can be someone who was very much of service in past lives, but maybe also they were too much in the material world, right? Too much like they were too much absorbed in the day by day things that very busy, and maybe that busyness took them away from being able to truly find that inner child, truly find what really burns them. Like imagine the person who's like working nonstop, a very important job, like a crisis hospital or something. I don't even know what, like someone who's just always working, 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 working. They don't get to explore their creative side, right? So, with love, um, well, before that, actually, let's talk about the Mercury. So your Mercury is retrograde in Aquarius. So, you be someone who is definitely right-brained. What's really interesting about this placement is that people with it sometimes can, you know, it usually refers to like having either underspoke or overspoke um, in a past life, right? So, and it's something around like, you know, in the mental sphere where there's something that like something about their thinking, about their thought processes, thought process blah, 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 that made it so they in this life are meant to have like um an energy where they're more analyzing, right, how they want to come across in thought. So sometimes Mercury retrograde people during Mercury retrograde itself will feel more like things make sense while everyone else is like, what the fuck? But it really turns the mind inward, right? And it makes like people overanalyze stuff. It gets easier with time. Um, just always going over like prior events and prior lessons. And it's very subconscious based rather than consciously based, right? Um, so sometimes school can be difficult for people with this, like just like the Capricornian kind of school system, because it's way more about absorbing the essence. And that's very Piscean too, the essence rather than the details. And that's also Sag Moon, right? You don't give a fuck about like the little small details, right? It's about understanding like the big concepts. And Sag Moons, they like to understand things like you're standing on the top of a mountain, you're seeing everything, you're seeing the real perspective. It's all about perspective and seeing from different perspectives. So sometimes people like with Mercury retrograde are super, super smart, but they might score lower on like standardized tests. And it's interesting, right? And it's because they just have a different learning process, and there should be an education system that's based on different types of learning styles. But it's not. And sometimes they're told they're less intelligent than they really are. Um, because yeah, they become very preoccupied with like, the form of the ideas. Um, so yeah, creative outlets are super important. If you would have like as a child been given like different creative outlets or found something that's like a life changer for Mercury retrograde, music, painting, writing, anything like that's nonverbal. Um, so yeah, lots of musical geniuses have this, right? And yeah, so yeah, I just think it's so crazy, like karmically, like with like relationships, like let's say with someone in this lifetime, you might react to a past life version of them, or as if they symbolize um someone from the past. Just mind blowing, isn't it? So um the fact that it's an Aquarius, you're definitely someone who thinks outside the box, someone who is ahead of their time in a lot of ways, right? Um, so it's quite fascinating. Um, Aside from that, um, yeah, you really gotta be careful not to be taken advantage of. And in the matters of the heart, when you have Venus 0 degrees Pisces, eighth house, it would be seventh in Placidus, right? So that on one end, it's very romantic, and it gives you the ability to really see the beauty in your partner, see the positive aspects of them, right? You want relationships that are really, really like deep, and they're very deeply romantic, and that can I guess like also sexuality, like deep kind of like maybe even like tantric sexuality could be something. And also eighth house, Venus and Sun could be really good for an inheritance or marrying someone with means, or working a job where you're working with other people's resources and you benefit from other people's resources. Um, but yeah, like eighth house Venus, sometimes the love life, well, it's eighth house in full sign. There can be a little bit of drama in the love life, but it's these relationships that really transform you. Um, but they can be very, very intense. But also, yeah, Venus in the eighth, it's really good for the occult and the esoteric, and having it's like having a lantern in the area, in all these areas of life that are kind of dark and very misunderstood by other people. You have this like ability to really get it. I see a lot of my clients that have like Jupiter or Venus in the eighth or the 12th. And some of like the most, yeah, like really, really intuitive people. So it adds the intuition. Um, but there's the rose-colored glasses thing, pink cloud. Like it's just like Venus and Pisces. It's one of the most beautiful, most romantic Venus signs, right? They want to merge with their partner, be one with their partner, um, and they want to like enjoy like inspirational activities, arts. It makes you really fond of the art, and, probably very, very creative yourself, but also just very fond of different arts, music, all that. And the love language is very much it's very deep, it's very, very deep and very yeah, it's like as romantic. It's probably the best Venus. It's like the best Venus sign in my opinion, besides the fact that um the potential of like rose-colored glasses, seeing someone that it can make people like really, really fool themselves. And Venus being about self-love in its core can make people like once again have like a lack of clarity around who they are and what they value. So it's really important to align yourself with spiritual values and then have those reflected in your relationship. Um, yeah. So yeah, it's hard for Pisces to live in this in this fucked up world. Like the Neptunians, we are used to, like Neptune is like the heavenly realms. So we're used to these heavenly realms as souls, and we're fallen angels, and we fall down, and we're like here in this world. It's like, how do we build that strength to cope with all this shit? You know? So it's like we're like aliens trying to become. You're an alien trying to like get good at humaning. And the inspirational areas of life are really where you thrive and really where you find solace. So then with Mars in Pisces, that gives that in the eighth, that gives that really strong drive towards a spiritual path and towards um you know transformation, and it gives very strong subconscious emotions. But sometimes Mars likes to be in fire signs. So Mars in Mars in a sign, sign like Pisces, sometimes there's like they can sometimes be passive aggressive because they have trouble um kind of really, really expressing themselves, like, and like their anger and yeah, so assertiveness can be difficult. But yeah, like Mars in the eighth also gives this big push, um towards the occult, towards the esoteric, right? So yeah, So, okay, so your Venus is square Uranus. That's really, really interesting, right? Because you're basically someone who is um you're basically someone who, like the love language would be very, like I said, very, very romantic, very, very close, right? Um, but Venus square Uranus is about freedom, and people with that, they can really, really want these relationships. But then they can get kind of like if things get too boxed in, they can start to feel like the relationships are sort of like a trap, like an imprisonment, right? So it's really important to have freedom, especially as a Sag moon in love. You need your alone time with your Pisces energy. You need your alone time, right? So you might be someone like me who doesn't share a bedroom with partners. It's just like it's a lot, because when you're such an empath, like it's not that vulnerability is like it's so hard to be vulnerable. It's just like it's a lot. You feel so deeply, and you're so sensitive. So um, it's like you're really like an angel. It's an angelic chart. So I'm gonna call this if I can remember. Um, but yeah, like with the and the vertex is right on the Mars, right in the eighth. So it's like it's really through this deep spiritual life, right? Like so much, like you know, you're here, and then like if we think, okay, like so we're talking about this big theme of like high Pisces energy, right? Um, but then like how does that match up with the Leo North Node, right? Well, and then you also have a third house Pluto, like yeah. Um, how does that match up? Well, um, on one end, you're meant to liberate yourself and you're meant to see everything for what it is and find truth within spiritual truth and just truth in general. It's so massive for you, right? Because then you can align yourself once you have developed like this is my version of truth. You can align yourself you know, with your passions. But the Leo part is the part about you, the need to find your creative passions and for you to find what what burns your fire, what lights your fire, not burns it. How does that make sense? Um, mm, mm, hold on 1 sec. Okay. Okay. So, um, yeah. Um, so one of the way so the 10th house, right, with Chiron, like I said, like you can be meant to be a healer. Um, at the same time, there's the energy where at the same time, there's the energy where, Chiron and Taurus, there can be issues with self-esteem, right? And when that's the case, it's very difficult, right? And the individual with that, in the 10th house, they have to learn. There can be, like feelings of like inadequacy, like in the outside world. So like feeling like the worth is not being recognized, right? And also feeling sometimes unsure about the career path. That's why, a lot of people with 10th house Chirons become healers of some sort, something that feels their soul, not the ego, right? And then like the Chiron and Taurus, there can be a lack of self-worth, and a lot of people sometimes will overcompensate with like money, possessions. I would doubt that because you have this Pisces energy, right? Um, but there's also like a distrust of the body. Sometimes with people with that don't feel like they feel like they're beautiful, and you have this square, interesting ascendant square Uranus, so you are probably a very rebellious person too. But it's someone who can definitely like who's here to really really create firm boundaries and create a real strong sense of value of who they are, a grounded sense of value of who they are, right? And then your midheaven's in 11th house, which I see rarely. With the part of fortune, we both have that. Another thing we both have. So that gives a ton of fortune with you and your dharma, right? So you're at your best when you're working with people. So midheaven in ooh, you have it. Oh shit! Look at you. You could be famous. I know that sounds crazy. I'm just saying. You have your midheaven on the best star with Regulus, Aldebaran, which means you have your IC on Antares. Wow. So we'll get into that a little bit later, but and then you have your part of fortune there. So you could definitely be someone like midheaven and Gemini already. They need something that really, really gets their mind going, really, really interested. And they could have two careers at once. They could have the money maker and the passion, and slowly over time the passion, because your fifth house moon with Neptune, you have that emotional need for creative expression, right? So that can become your work. um so a lot of midheaven Geminis have this like various like big life direction changes in their life. And then having Pallas in the 10th and Taurus makes you very very wise in your career path, almost like a chess player who knows like like it helps you like have like this real like ability to kind of like make the right moves. um and Palace and Taurus definitely gives a lot of common sense. Um, can make someone good at healing somatically, like Reiki, or like healing with their hands. And yeah, so part of fortune being on the midheaven, it is what it sounds like, right? It's and in Gemini, so you are at your flow state when in the fact that's in the 11th house, that adds the humanitarianism and working with people, like-minded people, right? And really towards like a major goal for you. And part of fortune being there is like your flow state is when you're really, really, really like you know, I guess in this context, you're feeding that mind, right? But you're not scattered. You have this real focus, but it's like really you're really feeding your intellectual and your mind, your curiosity about life. And then it's also just like ideas that uplift humanity and being able to serve humanity and working with other people in a really good way, and through that working like merging and increasing your spirituality. Yeah. And then Sirius in the 12th in Cancer, you nurture yourself and others when you feel like you're really giving back to the universe. And it's like you're here to the lesson is to really also help other people who are suffering. And you're able to like really nurture other people. Well, actually, a lot of times people serious in Cancer, like it's like their ability to truly like heal and nurture is really link with their relationship with their own mother. It's interesting, right? So if it was very close and loving, you know, then it would mimic like the kind of how you can nurture other people, right? But if not, there can be like codependent relationships. Um, and then I think you have Alphard rising. So then Vesta is in the second, in Virgo. So that just makes you a very, it can. I'm not worried about you being perfectionist because of all the mutable. Um, you know, So I would just say that like that's really really good for your chart because it can give you some real um organization, but you just have to avoid being overly critical of yourself and others. And second house Vesta is really good for your Chiron journey because it gives you that commitment to finding that strong values and strong sense of self. And it makes you kind of grind towards making something of yourself in the world. So then Juno, which is like the ideal mate, going back to some of the love stuff, being in the fourth in Scorpio, where I have mine, it's that you want your lover, you want a lover that you can have like a really deep, no bullshit relationship with, that there's the ultimate trust, the ultimate loyalty, and that person feels like a metaphoric home for you. And the fact that, yeah, it's with Black Moon Lilith is interesting too. But I don't know. The third house I want to talk about first, because you have Jupiter and Saturn there. Those two kind of offset and they're exactly conjunct. So when you have that conjunction, there can be some indecisiveness because it can make you, and that's also with Pisces too. It's like that's why you have to really have that firm understanding of who I am and what I'm doing, because it can make one indecisive, and just kind of going with the flow too much. So it's just kind of feeling pulled between the need for freedom and the need for expansion, right? Or what am I talking about? Like the need for freedom and expansion. Like it's like one part Saturn's about restriction and Jupiter's about expansion, right? And it's like kind of being pulled different ways. So it's about balancing those two, right? Structure, and so structure in your life, or like seriousness, and then fun, and kind of letting go of this. So it's good for business. And yeah, so interesting. But the fact that they're in the third independently, and also the retro Jupiter will make you, in Libra will make you someone who's who's very very good at bringing balance to other people, and like it's very good for like a counselor, or even for business, a negotiator, like someone who people come to resolve things. Someone who really cares about justice, right? Third house Jupiter makes one a very good talker. And they're always looking for like ways to like learn more and expand their mind, right? And very very diplomatic with that. Now with Pluto there too, that makes you someone who in past lives perhaps there was like maybe a lie of some sort, or the truth was bent to you in some way. So in this life, you're here to really really um, you know turn on for a second. So in this life, you're here to, like it makes one like someone who like, who wants to go and find, like do the groundwork, makes someone who wants to like go do the groundwork when it comes to finding information, right? Um, like not blindly believing something just because someone tells you to believe it. Um, and then also makes you a very effective communicator. But the Saturn would have made, until your Saturn return, 29, 30 years old, that maybe, there was some kind of feeling of restriction around communication, maybe something along the lines of, because of, being a Pisces alien, you may have, and being a Mercury retrograde, especially, right? That's it right there. maybe you kind of like were a little bit shy, or maybe doubted like your own intelligence, or just maybe just doubted your, maybe you were just like different, So, I don't know, I'm not too far from being done, so I'll just leave it on for the rest. Um, yeah, so just like very powerful communicator, very probing mind. Like when you get into something, you can really, really get into it. Like studying, like really want to learn, you go. Um, Also Pluto third house, like some people with that, they have like very like kind of volcanic or just power struggle relationships with siblings. And Saturn and Jupiter there, you know, could kind of like the Saturn could add some kind of like restrictive energy to the if siblings if you have them, but then Jupiter is very positive, so it can be a mixed bag where you learn a lot from them. Maybe you have different siblings. I don't know. Maybe you have none. But yeah. Um, so so Black Moon Lilith in Scorpio is interesting because I have that too, and I know all about it. And basically, it means that don't fuck with you. um, like people like with all your intuitive emotional intelligence, like you're like psychic, like you're psychic or like highly intuitive, so fucking intuitive. And like the thing with your Neptune moon is that it's a muscle. You have to meditate. You have to really believe in yourself. Believe that I'm telling you this is so rare that I see moon conjunct Neptune, right? Especially one, less than a degree away. And the more that you try to like get your like open, like you already have an open third eye no matter what, but the more that you work on opening it, like the potential is endless. And then we're talking, and because of all that, like if someone wrongs you, like you literally like, so you at your lowest, that's a Black Moon Lilith, us at our lowest vibe. It's like it can be a little bit power hungry, but it can also be like using manipulation and power struggles. And when you have, you know, like and just knowing exactly like what to say to just destroy someone, like psychologically, right? Um, so it could be, it's not something like I said, it's not something that it's not a planet, it's just a potential. Um, and it could be like, with your own family, perhaps, right? The energy comes out. Um, so sometimes people with this, it's like they're running away from duties at home, expecting like family members to like rescue them, or like I don't know, just like there can be different energy there. And lashing out at family members sometimes. And sometimes it also involves like getting embroiled in other people's emotional dramas, right? Um, and sometimes people with that, they feel like other people are kind of like um coming into their space and invading their life with their own crises and all that. Um, and it's just like, yeah, it can make someone just like really like, who loves solitude, like resent this intrusion. Um, but sometimes there's like this unconscious like attraction to these dramas, feeling a little bit more alive, um, when you get to hear about them and whatnot. So, I guess sometimes it comes to like just accepting your own need for emotional intensity, and it could even like be like working in, something like counseling or something like where, you get to really help people with their intense issues. All right. Um, So yeah, I like that your palace is in Taurus because it definitely like gives you some logic. With the Aquarius, Mercury retrograde can be, and with all that Pisces, so it definitely is helpful. Okay, let's pull. So yeah, now we're gonna talk about fixed. Like I want to pull the fixed stars and asteroids that are important. So you are less than a degree away from Antares midheaven, Aldebaran midheaven. So that is amazing. And I think you have Alphard 1 degree. Yeah, Alphard rising. So you got some big stars. Important stars. So let me pull up my list. Alphard, Aldebaran, and then you have Antares. So you have two of the royal stars on angles already. Very good. Um, hmm. I wonder what that does. Anything? Probably nothing. Yeah, so it's like less than a degree with Antares. Oh, yo, my God. You might wait. Wow. So you have Urania, and my last client had this too that tried to do before yours. That is so okay, check this out. I know it sounds crazy. Urania is the asteroid of astrology, and you have it exactly with your moon in Neptune. Same degree. Wow. That's crazy. So yeah, it's right on. Yeah, so like literally, you can have a natural gift for astrology. Um, let me look something up. Oops. So yeah, so it governs astrology, astronomy, and cosmology. Through the celebration of imagination and celestial knowledge, journey can help lift our minds and spirits to heavenly heights. Prominent in the horoscope of astrologers and people who have a keen curiosity of the vast, mysterious cosmos. Successful astrologers always have a strong place with Urania. Like me, I have my midheaven right with Urania. So the fact that you have your moon in Neptune, you could be someone who's meant to be an astrologer. Crazy. Um, so fascinating. Wow, and you have a more conjunct Mars. So that is my favorite asteroid probably. So you have a lot of them. I don't use many asteroids, I use a lot of fixed stars, but that is about unconditional love. And it just gives you this ability to have this like even more unbelievable empathy and special. It's just like being able to just like have this like the purest form of love for people. Um, so just such a natural healer. I don't say that all the time, by the way. Like your chart is seriously made for healing. It's a beautiful chart. Not just saying that because it's similar to mine. Um, all right, let's get into some of these. So Alphard rising. I was just reading about Alphard. So it's in the Hydra constellation. So you know, it is about prosperity, and it gives someone lots of passions, um, and it's very spiritual, very you know, expert in occult books and self-mastery. And you know, it's another one that's really big on, you know, the sciences of the sky. So, and it's very good for beauty as well. And it's very much about wisdom, musical and artistic appreciation, like knowledge of like psychology. Um, so you have to watch out for poison though. So don't poison yourself. Don't use substances, especially because you have your Jupiter. Wait, I'm tripping. Never mind. It says a poisoning is also possible in a relationship between a man and woman in marriage. This is especially true in a male chart case. That's good. Yeah. So it gives the ability to grow and rise to high places with always that Saturnine note of precaution that we must be clear about what we know in objective truth about the matter and that we endanger ourselves by letting a little knowledge and power get to our heads. Okay. So Aldebaran, you lucky duckling. Not lucky. So I'll read what it says. Aldebaran midheaven, if culminating honor, preferment, good fortune, and favors from women. Um, so in stunning contrast to Aldebaran rising, we see a plethora of high-powered celebrities with this placement. This confirms Robson's observations of success here. Those who act with integrity and have some sort of altruistic motive behind their work seem to avoid Aldebaran's risk of sudden storms of misfortune. We got fame, notoriety, some wasted talent, and a fall from grace, most probably due to overindulgence of the good life that Aldebaran initially delivers. A lot of people with Aldebaran, they come from money. Not always, but it's very, very kind of princessly. Um, the subject's charm, artistry, and refinement gets them far if they can avoid becoming complacent. So with any of the royal stars, you know, I have Regulus, I have it tattooed in my rising. You know, there's just that risk of also just like do not, I read this in an ancient text, like do not get revenge. Like if people can be jealous of you and do not seek revenge. But like if you were a public figure, if you're a public figure, I don't even know, like you will like be seen in this very great light. So Antares is on the IC, so IC is not obviously the ascendant and midheaven are the most important for where you have stars. So then the Nadir IC. So with Antares is a splendid and illustrious life, glorious, mighty and commanding nature, fame, potential, busy with many activities, bountiful resources, well known or feared in states and regions. This is just like a really like bland like I have a new book coming about this because like I'm so tired of these definitions. Because like this it says this a lot, but I think what basically what it's saying is that it's very known for success. And I was reading an ancient book from thousands of years ago the other day. And it was saying for people who have, well, it's talking about the ascendant and the descendant, but it's the same, you know, midheaven I see also. Because so what happens is that Aldebaran and Antares are pretty much opposite. Like they're opposite, right? One's at like around 9 Sag, one's around 9 Gemini. So if you have one on an angle, because your angles are complete opposites, you have the other one on an angle. So that's why I was so excited when I saw it. Who also, I didn't look at the fact that you have part of fortune with Aldebaran because you have a part of fortune. So it said, doesn't give us anything. And then I doubt there's anything on this because Pluto is new. New to the astrology compared to the ancient. No, nothing. All right, that. Let me just take a look at one thing. I did another long one, huh? 132, yep. Okay, just want to make sure we don't have anything. Yep. So that Uranium's crazy. Wow. You might be joining me in astrology rank. Okay, I just want to make sure, clear this out. Okay. Mhm, mhm. Also, your ascendant trines your moon, so that's amazing. Why is that amazing? Because the way that you appear, right? I have this too. Basically, your ascendant, the way that you appear, that Leo rising, is in a very good relationship, meaning they're very, very similar to your moon, your Sag moon, which makes it so um even though there is that Pisces, but still like at your core, your moon, it matches up with like how you are with your Leo, right? So people are at a huge disadvantage they have um when they have the opposite, right? When they have when they blah blah blah, when they blah blah blah, then they blah blah. No, like when it's like the ascendant's way different than like the ascendant's Leo and the moon is in Pisces, for example, right? Or the moon is in, let's call it Scorpio, right? You're gonna like that per or a Leo rising with a Scorpio moon is gonna be someone who appears all Leo, and then inside, their emotions and all that is Scorpio intensity, and people like they'll be very misunderstood. So it's really nice for you that you have that. Look at one more thing. Interesting. So Uranus and Moon are parallel. So that means that they're declinations, like where like this is, the longitude, right? Like if they're 90 degrees away around, that's a square, 180 degrees away, opposition, but there's also declination, right? So you have minus 19 for Moon and Uranus. So it's kind of similar to a conjunction. So that could be very, very good for being very, very unique, and also getting, like being someone who's very rebellious and very who needs a lot of space and who's very individualistic, and um all sorts of creative vibes, and being able to receive downloads in meditation. I usually don't do this for people, by the way. Like, look at this. It's a little bit extra, but I don't care. And then Sun is contraparallel Pluto. Ooh. Um, so yeah. That's a tough one, and that could speak to potential issues with the father, and just like the need to like really, really not choose ego over soul, and to really like surrender, and it just might push one into kind of like the kind of forced death rebirth transformation that comes from having eighth house sun anyways. So all right, that is it, my friend. Thank you so much. I really hope to talk to you, but if not, I hope you enjoy. This is so fun to do, and talk to you later. Bye, my fellow big three friends. All right.